name is Ashley.
I'm 32, juggling a desk job at a small firm while managing the home front. Gilbert, my husband, and I met through mutual friends, and we've been married for 3 years now. The honeymoon phase is over, the fluttery feelings have settled, but day-to-day life is mostly stress-free and peaceful. Well, just the two of us.
Ashley, this soup lacks flavor.
I'm sorry.
The entrance and the bathroom weren't cleaned properly. Are you listening?
Yes. During the summer break, I was dragged to my in-laws, treated almost like a servant by Carolina, and constantly criticized. Every time we had a significant break, I was brought to the in-laws and burdened with chores, then bombarded with a slew of complaints about my shortcomings. Lucas and even Gilbert would just be engrossed in newspapers or their phones, acting oblivious to Carolina's attitude. Still on our drive back, Gilbert would try to console me.
I'm sorry. Mom's always been a bit much, but I think she's really happy when you're around. She seems more lively.
But he's kind of missing the point. Maybe Carolina is spirited because she has someone to pick on. However, many of my friends also have mother-in-law issues, so I thought this was just how things were. If I stayed patient, things would settle. Just around that time, Gilbert's brother, Robert, got married. Robert is a quiet guy, especially compared to Gilbert. Even when I saw him at family gatherings, we'd barely exchange greetings. And Robert's new wife? A youthful, modern beauty named Sarah, nearly 12 years his junior. It felt like an unlikely pairing.
Carolina was over the moon, exclaiming, "Typical Robert, snatching up a young wife."
They said they're working until Christmas, so they plan to come then. Given this, I stayed with the in-laws from Christmas Eve, which meant an even more charge-up Carolina giving me tasks.
Ashley, are you still cleaning? At this rate, it'll be Christmas before you're done. Hurry up and prep the greeting. Ashley, are you still cleaning?
Okay, G-Breast is step you by.
Oh, I can't wait for tomorrow. She's my son's young wife. I'll have to show her the ropes.
I secretly sighed, watching an overly enthusiastic Carolina out of the corner of my eye. This tomorrow, I wrung out the cloth in cold bucket water. Schnacked around noon the next day. Sarah might seem flashy, but she was courteous in her greetings and actions, which made me like her. Yet Carolina seemed preoccupied, looking for something to nag Sarah about. First impressions matter after all.
Come on, Sarah.
Ay, uncomfortable.
Sarah, about to head to the living room with Robert, looked startled.
A son's wife belongs in the kitchen, right?
Hey, ma'am, it's Capercy's Jamily.
Just sit down.
Just with a sharp glare, Carolina dragged Sarah into the kitchen.
She instructed me to teach her properly and then returned to the living room, seemingly satisfied.
I reached out to the stunned Sarah.
It's tough right after arriving. I hear the son's wife has to get the hospitality going immediately. Recital come to the child. This coffee pot's over there, and the cups are here. The visa bird.
Sarah, looking even more baffled, asked, "How do you know where everything is in someone else's kitchen?"
Well, since I've been doing all the chores here every time I visit, I got the hang of it. I saw.
Real reason.
The son's wife only starts eating after everyone's done. Ristasher pressure a lie. Until then, just focus on serving. As
What?
Overwhelmed by these house rules, Sarah let out a loud exclamation. My ears rang from the sudden noise, and even Carolina, who was relaxing in the living room, came rushing in.
What's all the commotion?
Carolina! Oh, the harassment begins right after I arrive, huh?
An agitated Sarah confronted Carolina, who looked taken aback.
This is a fun way to harass me, right? Making the son's wife do all the work and not refer to her eating gracious. We're not even letting her eat. That's like an old drama. It's actually a Carolina that exists to bully the son's wife. We should preserve this endangered species.
Wait a minute.
A Carolina is harassing the son's wife, a tradition in this house. Are you too jealous because we took your lovely sons? That's not harassment, it's education. As Jersey Cabaret versus this education.
Carolina's face contorted.
Education, you say? First, Ashley, what do you think?
Caught off guard by the sudden request, I hesitated. As Sarah, who seemed like a detective from some drama, paced the kitchen tapping her temple, she quipped, "Is this education endorsed by the Department of Education? Do they teach in schools that a son's wife should eat last? Hey, I haven't heard of that. Me neither." After I responded vaguely, Sarah smirked and addressed Carolina.
As Carolina, do you fancy yourself a noble lady for wanting to pass down this son's wife harassment tradition? Are you on a birthday thrill?
But
Carolina seemed utterly baffled.
Maybe we should check with the neighbors if this is really a local tradition. I'll go ask them right now. Got any lights to ask him?
no.
Carolina was clearly overwhelmed by Sarah's fierce logic.
Yes, I'll be unawares, right? I cup, I almost mine. Did he? Ashley, let's wrap this up so we can eat together.
Okay. Sarah, turning off her detective mode, grinned cheerfully, while Carolina glared at her intently. Being outmaneuvered by Sarah's strange logic felt unexpectedly liberating to me. Sarah's assertiveness made it feel like she genuinely might question the neighbors. However, this was just the beginning of Sarah versus Carolina. I knew Carolina wouldn't stop until she turned the tables. When Sarah and I joined the table, Gilbert and Lucas seemed taken aback. Still true to form, neither of them said a word. Robert, looking relieved, seated Sarah beside him. Carolina, recovering from the previous blow, scanned for any flaw in her son's wives. Though yet, Sarah remained unfazed.
Did you wishes? The antibiotic? You make this. Leslie?
Yes,
I love green bean casserole and stuffing. I could eat them all year round.
her youthful charm was somewhat healing. When was the last time I left in this house? Then, Sarah tilted her head as she tried to sprinkle some salt on her plate.
Oh, we're out of salt.
I'll go get it from the kitchen.
Thanks. Bombshell, I'm the 60.
As Robert acted naturally, Sarah smiled appreciatively. Carolina, however, saw her opportunity. Don't use Robert like that. It really shows your upbringing.
Old fuck historically ladies. It's his home. It's only natural he helps out. It's strange and old-fashioned to make your wife do everything.
Old-fashioned. Carolina clamped up. But the atmosphere, so different from when it was just Carolina and me, left even the typically aloof Lucas and Gilbert slack-jawed. Only Robert and Sarah seemed to be enjoying the Christmas feast and Carpicchio. Watching them, a different thought began to form in my head. After the stormy lunch cleanup, I relaxed in the guest room prepared for us. Then, with me alone, I knew this was coming.
By the way, Ashley, how are things going with having a child?
This was her usual line. Yet, she probably targeted me to avoid confronting Sarah. I felt less irritated than usual.
Gilbert has a problem?
I'd clam up here, but today was different. Ashley finally let out the words she'd been holding back.
That Janae's girl. There's no way Gilbert has an issue, right? Listen, if you don't have any issues, you should easily be able to have a child. To blame your own failures on Gilbert.
Sarah popped up from behind Carolina. I understand what she's been trying to convey, even if the bizarre norms of my in-laws had numbed me.
Like Carolina is the perfect example of an annoying Latrell. My smashed burst.
Having been labeled old-fashioned and having her harassment thwarted, Carolina finally exploded. Thus, hearing her, Trist, Robert, and Gilbert rushed in.
Cheats to Aberdeen.
Ignoring Carolina's complaints, Robert firmly stood by Sarah.
The one without common sense is you. Mom, teach musty spracher. Belittling and bossing around someone else's daughter is just low.
I've suffered too. Now it's my turn.
But you were that young, and I was dumb. How many years did you follow? The nasty attitude and outdated views are not because of Myra, but what you created.
How dare you? Robert, is this all because of Sarah's influence? You should break up with her and leave right now.
I always found your hysterics and narcissism off-putting. I didn't even want to marry because I knew you'd bully my wife. As to Sarah said, I'm for that. I'm fine with that. If anyone's leaving, it's not Sarah, it's you. Aren't you?
The usually reserved Robert was going all out defending his wife. Seeing him do that made me tear up. Carolina, not expecting Robert to defy her, was at a loss for words.
Oh,
As you wished, a chance. Sarah and I are leaving. We will ever come back to this harassment wonderland for wives?
why? Why are you leaving too? Albert, stay here. You're my son, right?
Kagnyamar, this race truly still else meters. Again, Clarby smacked it in below. Thelman's the Mr. West Asher.
Albert, no.
Grabbing the luggage they had when they arrived, Robert and his wife head for the entrance. Then, Sarah turned back and offered her hand to me,
Ashley, want to come with us?
that with a bright smile. Sarah held out her hand, and I silently nodded. Thank you. I will.
Oh, wait. Ashley?
Gilbert, who had been largely silent, started panicking, but I didn't care. I took only my essentials and bolted out of the house with Robert and his wife. Robert and his wife were kind enough to let me ride in their car.
Ashley, talking. I'm sorry for being so intense.
Sarah, sitting beside me in the back seat, apologized. Not at all. Thanks to you both. I felt refreshed and woke up to reality.
Good. That's good.
Sarah smiled reassuringly at me, trying to break the ice. All the fiery energy from earlier was gone, and she seemed incredibly calm. This was probably her true self. Sarah had fought with all her might.
I'm sorry we couldn't help you sooner. We've always been concerned about how Gilbert and his family treated you.
As from the driver's seat, Robert also apologized, glancing at me through the rearview mirror. No, it's not your fault. Robert,
I think both Gilbert and Dad and we've all had issues with Mom's character for a long time. I think that we've become so adept at avoiding conflict. That's just shifted her focus to you. It probably became easier for Gilbert.
Robert looked truly displeased. Sarah continued.
That's why Robert never wanted to get married. I did, but I did, so we staged this act to get banned from Carolinas. Our crossbow amble is battable. Of course, if she treated us well, we wouldn't have done a thing.
Albert, Sarah, the two genuinely care for one another. This is what true love looks like. I felt clarity, like a fog lifting in my mind. Thanks to you both. I've realized who the real enemy is.
Ashley, Dave, Brett, Low, and sirs.
Robert smiled, a look of relief, yet a hint of sadness on his face.
I'll give you the recordings later. Robert has been secretly recording all the previous harassments as well.
I kept them thinking you might need them someday, though I wished you never would.
Sarah, Robert,
I'll never go back to that toxic house again. But if you're ever in trouble, just call. Prosper Sir Wurtzener, I'll stand by you. First Burkett Browser. I'll stay. I'll be in it for you, Conaby.
Sarah made a fist, signaling her support. Their presence bolstered my resolve. Robert and Sarah dropped me off at home. As I tidied up my room, I awaited Gilbert's return. But Gilbert didn't come home until midday the next day. On seeing that I was home, he looked relieved.
Iraq. Yesterday was rough after that. Mom was livid.
I noticed. I'm prejudiced.
I vouched for you. Told them you were just overwhelmed by Sarah's energy and that you'll apologize next time. He blabbered on, oblivious to my cold demeanor. That wife of Robert's, Sarah, right? The man. Robert really chose a crazy one. Is she insane? I'm glad I chose you. Ashley,
Choosing Gilbert was a big mistake on my part.
then.
For a moment, he seemed to not grasp what I said. When he turned to look at me, his eyes widened in surprise. Seeing my deadpan expression, realization dawned on him. I had hoped after witnessing Robert's actions that Gilbert might change, but in the end, you're just like Carolina. What a shame.
Why are you acting like this? Sure, everything was fine until now.
Because I've been the only one compromising? You've used me as a shield, no more like a sacrificial lamb, to escape Carolina's wrath. You've perfectly inherited the role your father, Lucas, played all these years.
Sacrificial. That wasn't my intention.
Despite the unheated room, Gilbert began sweating profusely. He was clearly rattled, trying to grasp at any semblance of control. If you truly cared about me, you wouldn't have dragged me to such a painful place. And even if you did, you'd shield me from the hurt.
Look,
I've realized who the real enemy is. It's you, Gilbert. Seeing Robert's genuine concern, it became clear. Thanks to Robert and Sarah, I finally understand.
Ashley?
Let's end this. Carolina always said a woman who can't bear children should leave. This works out. I've downloaded divorce papers online. Here you go. Goodbye. I grabbed my packed bags, slipped on my shoes, and remarked,
Without any hesitation or regret, I left, not wanting to ever return to that house.
I didn't even bother to look back at his pitiful, desperate voice. I entrusted everything to him, not wanting to ever return to that house. My ex-in-laws, with their overbearing nature, and Gilbert were quite intimidated by my attorney. Thanks to the evidence that Robert and Sarah provided, the divorce proceedings went relatively smooth.
Carolina was heard grumbling about finding Gilbert a new wife who's a better and can bear lots of children.
My son's wife is probably just a tool for his family, my lawyer quipped with a wry smile. Fast forward 5 years. Melissa, dinner's ready? Use your spoon, okay? Your friend Alice is such a sweet and wonderful girl.
McDonald's next mother eat your Twiskies. Alyssa is irresistibly adorable.
Watching kids playing pretend at a local community center, Sarah and I basked in the tranquility of the moment. 3 years after my divorce, I remarried. Soon, our daughter Melissa, who's about to turn 1, was born. It proved that I wasn't a woman who couldn't have children. My current husband and his family are wonderful people, or rather just normal folks with common sense. They adore not only their granddaughter, but also me, their son's wife. During Gilbert's divorce fiasco, Sarah and her family helped me just as they promised they would. Our friendship continued even after the divorce. Now, it feels like we're comrades in arms, or friends, or even like sisters. Sarah also has a 3-year-old daughter, Alice, who plays well and is kind to Melissa. Although Alice is Gilbert's child with another woman, meaning there's no blood relation, the 2 kids seem like real cousins. Meanwhile, Gilbert did remarry, but apparently divorced again shortly after. Neither Carolina nor Gilbert seemed to recognize their flaws or change their ways. It seems women began to keep their distance. In desperation, Gilbert tried to reconcile with me, and Carolina made ridiculous demands to Robert's family. Of course, there's no way we'd return to that dwelling of the harsh mother-in-law. Those who can't admit their mistakes will likely wither away in loneliness there. Ashley, once Melissa starts walking, do you want to go to the park? There's a spot with really soft grass. It feels so good, Sarah suggested. That sounds great. I'm looking forward to it, I replied. We exchanged smiles. I do owe Gilbert one thing, introducing me to Sarah. If I had remained Gilbert's sacrificial lamb, I would have found this calm and gentle time. Fixed in remembering the warmth of the hand Sarah extended to me back then, I feel deeply grateful that I ventured into a new world,